Big news. The Almanac is officially back. The most exhaustive and comprehensive guide to the 2023-24 college basketball season is available for pre-order now. If you go to cbbalmanac.com, link is in the description below, you can pre-order for just $15.99 or 20% off the sticker price. The format is going to be a little bit different this season. Instead of an 850-page PDF, you'll be getting access to the full site with league-by-league PDFs available for download. The preview will be live on September 20th, so you have until then to be able to get your pre-orders in. So for insight for all 362 Division I teams from their head coaches and the experts that cover them, make sure you hit that link.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 Offseason Grades. I'm John Martin here with my man Rob Doster. We're in the lab. We're grading teams in the offseason. And up next, the Florida Atlantic Owls, who, by the way, have basically done what no team in this position has done in the past, which is bring everybody back. Dusty May is back. Alijah Martin is back. Johnell Davis is back. Vlad Golden is back. This is a team, of course, that made a miracle run to the Final Four after a very tough first-round matchup that could have gone either way with Memphis. They got all the way to the Final Four, and now they are trying to run it all the way back in 2023-24 in a brand-new league in the American Athletic Conference. So, Rob, I think a good place to start is the fact that they did that. Everybody is back. The coach is back. The biggest pieces. The only guy they lost was, I believe, their sixth man, essentially, Michael Forrest. He graduated. Everybody else came back. Nobody transferred. How did this happen in the age of the transfer portal and NIL?
I think the single biggest factor here in everybody coming back is Dusty May not jumping for a bigger job, right? Now, with the run that he had and kind of what he solidified himself as when it comes to being a coach and, what his reputation is in the industry, like he's going to be able to go get a really, really good job. And you don't have to jump at something that is maybe not necessarily the ideal fit for you just because you want to be able to get a bigger job like that. Those offers are going to be there. He signed a 10-year contract. He's going to be making 7 figures in Boca Raton. Like life is pretty good for him right now. And I think him coming back with some more resources getting put in and obviously making sure that these kids are able to make a little bit of money while they're there, kind of signified to everybody else on the roster, like, you know what? We should run it back. If Dusty May is going to pass up on a chance to be able to get like a $3.5-4 million salary guaranteed over 7 years, then why shouldn't I be able to come back and try to run this thing back and see what we can actually do? And I think that was a big part of it. I think the loyalty that a lot of these guys showed is something that should be commended. And it's one of it's something that you don't see in college basketball these days. Like the biggest knock on this sport, which I think NIL has helped, is that you don't have that continuity year over year where you know who the players are, you know who the good teams are. Like you have to reacclimate yourself every September and October as people that cover the sport. Like John, you know how this is, man. And the fact that FAU, after making it to a Final Four, is going to have those same kids, those same names, those same faces that you recognize coming in as a preseason top 10 team, one of the best stories in college basketball, I think is something that is great for the sport. I love it. I'm going to be rooting for them. We're obviously doing the Field of 68 tip-off down there in Boca Raton with them. And I cannot wait to see what this Florida Atlantic season is going to be. It's so good for college basketball. Point blank, period. I love it.
It is. It's shocking. And I think the most interesting thing about this FAU team, you remember that Ashton Kutcher movie, Butterfly Effect?
Yes.
I mean, it was a bad movie, right? But I mean, like the concept, I think, is so interesting when you apply it to FAU. Go back to the first round game against Memphis. Memphis got the timeout. They called a jump ball. Right. And the arrow happened to be pointing to FAU in that instance. Even though Memphis had a timeout, they got the clear call, didn't get it. FAU goes on to win the game. If Memphis gets that call, Memphis wins the game more than likely, given the amount of time that was left on the clock. And FAU never makes a Final Four run. FAU probably loses the majority of these guys to the transfer portal. Dusty May probably takes another job because like he doesn't make the run that he makes. And we're not talking about FAU as a top 5, top 10 team. It's just the sort of margin, from overwhelming success to afterthought in college basketball is this thin. It's the difference of a jump ball or a timeout, and which team benefits from that. And I think FAU benefited from that, and they validated it, right? They still went on to beat Fairleigh Dickinson. They went on to beat Tennessee, to beat Kansas State. So they earned it. But just going back to the first round game, how different does this look if they don't win that? You know what I mean? Like college basketball.
It's the sliding doors moment, right? It's the sliding doors moment.
There's no question.
In this season. And, you would also throw in there that they happen to be the 9 seed in the region where Fairleigh Dickinson pulled off an upset over
that too. Yes, Purdue,
right? Like,
Purdue lost, right?
Yeah, and honestly, like to me, that's kind of the beauty of what the NCAA tournament is, and it's why basing your overwhelming opinions on how good a coach is, on how good a team is, on what the level of success is, based strictly on what happens in that event is kind of foolish and kind of silly and also kind of awesome and fun and insane at the same time. It's what makes the sport what it is.
It's what gets coaches hired, though.
Yes,
it's like FAU is not a top 5, top 10 team in the preseason consensus if they lose in the first round. They might even let's just say they even have the same team. Like we would not be talking about them as a top 10 team.
We'd be talking about it as like a borderline top 25 kind of team.
Exactly.
It'd be the kind of thing where like you'd have some of these guys that love mid-majors being like, I'm telling you, FAU,
right,
they're bringing everybody back. Remember that team that won 35 games and beat up on people in a league that where nobody knows anyone else in that conference like that. Oh, they're going to be something to watch.
Yes.
No, exactly. But you're 100% right. And I do think that it's going to be fun to see how this kind of plays out when you have that level of expectation, right? Because
yes, I think that's the key.
They kind of operated in obscurity for most of last year. Like 100%. we were paying attention to them. We noticed
the nerds of college basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. They went in and they beat Florida in like the second week of the season. And they just kind of took off from there and kept on winning. So we were paying attention to them. But it wasn't like the national spotlight. It wasn't like something where they had ESPN cameras on them every night. But this year, they are going to be a talking point. One, they're going to a bigger league, so they're going to have a national television contract, so they're going to be playing a lot of those Thursday night ESPN 7 p.m. tip-offs, right? 2, they are embracing it, right? Like the Field of 68 tip-off thing that we're doing, like that wasn't us going to them and saying, hey, we should do this. That was them being like, hey, how can we bring more eyeballs on this team that we have and on mid-major basketball, period. So I think that they are embracing that. And look, frankly, when you go from being a 9 seed to the Final Four, coming out of FAU, coming out of a program where, like, if you rated the best jobs in the American right now, like, there's no way that's above like one of the second to the last, right? It's 100%. Not a good basketball job, right? Yes. So they're embracing that pressure. They want the smoke, and I'll tell you what, they got a lot of tough kids on that roster. They're going to be ready for it.
Well, and I'm with you 100%. I think that's going to be the key dynamic here is you go from, as you mentioned, sort of anonymous. Like you're not pegged to win your conference. You're not pegged to make the tournament. You're just sort of operating in the shadows, and you're going to be the preseason favorite in the AAC. Like you're going to be the pick. I mean, it might be close. Like Memphis might get some votes, but you're sort of replacing Houston for a year, right? You're replacing Houston as, top dog in the AAC, and Memphis is trying to track you down, and the rest of the AAC is trying to track you down. So how do you handle that role, right? It's very different psychologically. I do agree with you, though, that the guys on this team certainly seem equipped mentally to do it. So I will ask you this. If the season plays out the way that certainly Dusty May hopes it plays out, who is key? Who is helping make this happen for the Owls on the court?
I mean, look, you need your studs to be studs, right? Like you need Johnell Davis and you need Alijah Martin to be your best players. They need to be, if you're going to be a top 10 team for Florida Atlantic, like you have to walk in there knowing that those two guys are going to be the best player on the floor, like 90% of the games that you play. And I don't know if I am quite there yet. I do think that FAU is one of those teams where the the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Like one thing that people don't really realize, and it kind of we talked about it a little bit during their run, but Davis and Martin started a combined 35 games, right? Both of those guys came off the bench for long stretches of the season. And it was that unity, that togetherness, that like selflessness, that we're in it for the team, whatever cliche you want to use as a coach and throw out there. Like that's what they had. They were all the way bought in. And that's important. You need that.
Yep.
But you also need studs doing the things that studs do. And I think like to me, that's kind of, it feels like a little bit of a cop out to say, but when we're setting the level of expectation for a program like this at top 10 in the country, at winning the American, at making another tournament run, we're talking about you in the same breath as Kansas, as Duke, as UConn, as Houston, as teams that have first round picks, lottery picks, preseason All-Americans, Hall of Fame head coaches, national title pedigree. Like that's what you have to be. And if you're going to be at that level, you need your studs to be studs. It's that simple.
Yep, I totally agree. Okay, on to the grading portion. You've got your lab coat on. It is time to submit your final grade. What are we giving Dusty May and the Owls for their offseason?
There's no grade that is high enough, right? I'm going A++. I'm going double pluses. I'm going 100. I'm going perfect. They did the extra credit answer at the end. It could not be any better. It is the exact opposite of what John Martin's high school career was like.
100%.
100% perfect. Yes. How could you be better? There's no possible. The only way that this could be better is if like Dusty May went out and got Hunter Dickinson out of the transfer portal.
Right?
Like, how could it be better?
Exactly. Yeah. Which I'm kind of shocked that like that didn't happen. So let's go to the let's consult the grade book here. we Memphis got an A so far. FAU coming in. I didn't have the extra plus, but A+ for me too, man. I mean, like you said, there's really not much more Dusty May could have done. I mean, you know that those kids were getting calls the entire offseason, probably during the season, during Christmas, and somehow, you know, it was a stroke of luck, different job didn't come up, a good enough job didn't come up. Dusty May stays, everybody else stays. I agree with you. It's great for college basketball, and I hope they validate it with another good run.
That's actually, I don't think we dove enough into that because you didn't really hear Dusty's name get locked into that many jobs. Like there was a little bit of like, I think he's going to get Ole Miss. I think he's got a chance there. He's got SEC connections. And there was some like, maybe he'll get there, but there was no, I feel like with a lot of those jobs, you know, like Brad Stevens, for example, Shaka Smart, two other guys that kind of took a team from the similar level to a higher level. Every single job that opened up, Shaka was connected with, right? Every single job that opened up until he left for the Celtics, Brad Stevens was connected with. Like that was the first name on the list. And you just kind of never saw that this offseason with Dusty May. Now, that might change next year if they win 35 games again and make a run in the tournament. Like something's going to open up. Something big is going to pop, and he's going to be.
I sort of expect this to be his last year, but still, I mean, to get 2 years out of this core and this group is like you would make that trade for a Final Four for that program
1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000 every single day, twice a day. For the rest of my life.
And look, I know we're not there yet, but maybe, right? Maybe you have now sort of opened the administration's eyes to what Florida Atlantic basketball can be. So now you can maybe talk yourself into a bigger investment. You're in a new league now, so you can like actually put some focus in that. So maybe Dusty is sort of this OG, a guy that sort of says, hey, we live in a great part of the country. You know, who wouldn't want to play here? We've been to a Final Four. Maybe it'll be 2 by the time it's all said and done. Why not keep this thing rolling with with an investment into the program? So that could be, you know, a byproduct of all of this too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible story. It's one that's fun to watch, and it's one that I'm sure all of the thousands and thousands of retirees that are down there in Boca Raton are completely locked in.
Either way, Florida Atlantic here on the Field of 68 grading show is getting an A++ from the gang here. So up to them to obviously, you know, repeat and duplicate the performance. But in terms of the offseason, hard to ask for more from Dusty May and the Owls.
Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.